I'm super excited to be talking about a specific market that intrigues me, and I think it intrigues a lot of the subscribers and listeners to this podcast and realtors across the country. Lynne Mazin is a Compass affiliate. She specializes in residential real estate in Manhattan and the Hamptons. Lynne, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, great to have you. Really appreciate it. I know you're super busy. We talked a little bit before we hit record, and so I really appreciate you taking time to join the podcast. Um, Most of what I know about practicing real estate in Manhattan or the Hamptons would be what I've seen on TV. So I know a lot of that is, you
That's
know,
made for TV
a lot of that's made for TV. Exactly.
because it's
So
much crazier. That's the edited, washed down version of where the action really happens.
that's right. Yeah. So maybe we'll dispel a myth or two today, but I'm just really excited to have you on the podcast to talk about your market and your areas of expertise. Before we dive into that, though, I always start these conversations with a little bit of background. As I say in every episode, I think that for most realtors, making real estate a career generally is at the end of a windy road that leads to this profession. So, would love to know a little bit about your background and what led you to real estate as a career.
All right, super. I actually started off in on Wall Street. I was on a bond desk, and I was there for probably about 15 years. I covered very sophisticated investors. They were central banks, sovereign wealth funds, major hedge funds that were investing in the bond market. That's where I got my start. I think it was a bit of a gift because it really made me very, very seasoned regarding sales techniques, and most importantly, delivering an exceptional client experience because those were clients that had the best service around the globe and the competition was fierce. So I think that really gave me a nice foundation to launch my career into real estate. I transitioned here because I continue to work with sophisticated investors investing in sophisticated assets. So it was a seamless transition at the time.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You mentioned fierce competition, and that's sort of the term that comes to mind when I think of practicing residential real estate in your market. I can't imagine how competitive it must be. Your background on Wall Street, no doubt, really laid a great foundation for launching a successful real estate career. Did you, in the beginning, I'm just curious, how did you begin building your business in the beginning, your real estate business?
I spoke to a lot of people that I thought were successful in some capacity in this industry, and I really did my due diligence. I asked them what they thought the secret sauce was to launch a career in transition. And I think you touched on it really well before. Most people who land in the world of real estate actually have a foundation someplace else. They all said, based on your network, who are your Hot 100? Put together your Hot 100 list and connect with them and tell them you're making a move to real estate. You really appreciate their support. They gave me talking points to not just advocate for myself, but more so the firm and the people I was working with to really offer value to these clients and explain, even though I was new in the industry, I wasn't new in the space, that this was a company I worked for that was in the industry for many years. The people I work with were very experienced. And that's where I started with that Hot 100.
Hot 100, that is, I love that. That's actually only the second time I've heard that on the podcast, but I think it's really worth underscoring how important that is. I think one of the biggest questions uh, someone needs to ask themselves before they become a licensed realtor and begin practicing real estate sales is, how do you intend to generate business? And starting with a Hot 100, having a network from another industry that actually has so much in common, right? A lot of the folks, a lot of your network have from Wall Street would have a lot of real estate needs, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. You want to find people that will support you. And interestingly, they're not necessarily the people that are closest in your sphere. They're two, three, four pieces away from your very close, intimate network. So you have to put people in there. From my experience, at least, the people who I thought were most responsive were people that were in a similar position to myself. that they understood what it means to build a network, to be entrepreneurial, to have support in a space. So it's not the person who's the most successful in your network that reaches out. It's a person that understands what you're going through, that really values your relationship with you and wants to help you.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I love that point that you made about how it may not necessarily be the most successful people that you know in your network, but those who, as you said, can relate to the concept of building a new business that and understand the value of networking and referral partnerships and that sort of thing. So you leveraged your access and your acquaintance with folks in those positions, and then from there you were able to make connections beyond them.
Exactly. You have to start somewhere. Everybody has a first day of work, right?
Right.
So on day one, where are you going to start? I started with the Hot 100. And then when you're now 1 year, 2 year, 3 years deep into an industry, then you can reevaluate where do you go from there and how do you now build not just a business, but a very sustainable and profitable business. That's a different question and a different equation that you're solving for. So first you have to get through day one and year one, and then you have to take a step back and probably really reposition and pivot, because it's not just about a specific deal. Now it's about leadership and mentorship and building sustainability and building brand identity. Your challenges start to evolve as your business evolves, as it should.
Hot 100, I think, is something every agent, regardless of where you are in your journey, if you haven't already done so, should create that list and start, nurturing that list as well. I love that. I'm going to execute on that. That was a great
And that
point.
Hot
And
100, Jeff, I get questions on this a lot. That Hot 100, like I said, it's not the most 100 successful people that you've ever met in your career. It's people that you believe resonate with you, that support you, that you know you support, and that you can build camaraderie with. And that Hot 100 really could be the woman that you see every single day at Starbucks. It can be the person that does your nails. It could be the person that you work out with at the gym. These are just people that you see that they have, there's continuity in that relationship. They see you, they know your story, they know your dog, they know your kids, and they're like cheerleading for you. They're legitimately want to see you succeed. And you're like, hey, great news. I just got a new job. I'm so excited. I'm going to start selling real estate. If there's anyone that you see coming and going that's buying or selling real estate, I would love if you can make an introduction. Here's some of my business cards. And when you least expect it, it could be 8 months later, you'll get a phone call and they'll tell you, hey, I just met somebody great. I'm going to connect you.
intentional outreach and connecting with your Hot 100 and your sphere, growing and nurturing your sphere. Is that essentially how you launched your real estate business?
It's one of the ways that I think it's a very valuable and frankly cost-effective and impactful way to start.
Yeah.
And then as time goes by, like I said, you take a step back and now you have new challenges. You want to build a brand, you want to start to hire, you want to be involved in more than one market. Here for me, not just Manhattan, but I thought the Hamptons was very compelling because my clients are not just in Manhattan, they're in the Hamptons. There's a lot of transition down to Florida and other markets. So you start to evolve with your business. You need to be where your people are. And that's really what the next step I thought that was impactful is really taking a look at the client base I was able to curate and figuring out how could I really be a resource for them? What could I do next? What's my next move to help them make their next move?
I've found that most successful real estate agents don't necessarily serve everyone. And by that I mean most successful real estate agents that I've had on this podcast and that I know here locally as well, really specialize and have a niche, have an ideal client that they work best with, and the types of transactions that make up most of their business. How long have you been practicing real estate?
I think I'm sliding into year 10.
Year 10.
Year 10.
You must have started on Wall Street when you were really young.
I came from law school. I was in law school and I had a fascination with it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I knew where I wanted to be. And it didn't matter who told me why it wasn't for me and why it didn't work and why I wasn't the right fit. I knew where I wanted to be.
Would you say are or what would you say are your main areas of focus there for your business in your market, and really the two markets that have so much overlap, I think the Hamptons and Manhattan. What would you say your areas of expertise are, generally speaking?
I know where I provide the most value for clients. So I believe I'm a very competent advisor for high net worth, ultra high net worth investors in real estate that really have a global portfolio. I'm able to take a step back with them from an advisory perspective and look at their assets holistically because they're not just buying real estate. They have stocks, they have bonds. In today's market, they have Bitcoin. And this is part of a diversified portfolio for them.
You work a lot with investors. Is that the majority of your business? A majority of your clients are investor clients?
I would think it's better to characterize it as they were definitely people. There are end users that will actually use the property, but at these price points, nobody wants to buy something and lose money, right?
Yeah,
Everybody wants to
yeah.
come in and have a good experience and have a win and have a trophy property. So that's really where I guide them. Where are they best? Where's the best buy at any given time in Manhattan, and where are they going to get the best deal? Those are the people that tend to connect with me.
Yeah, that makes sense. It could be their primary residence or secondary residence, but it's still they're approaching the transaction from an investment mindset,
Perspective,
right?
correct.
Yeah, yeah. Down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, specifically the Lake Norman market and the High Country, Banner Elk, where I do most of my business. When we talk about investor clients, we talk about those who are uh, either purchasing a property for an income producing property, vacation rental, short term rental, that sort of thing, or it's a second or third home that they plan to also generate income while they're not using it. So it's a different. See that's one of those differences in mindset from the Manhattan Hamptons client than the North Carolina client. So it's interesting. I would love to, we talked a little bit about dispelling myths earlier, and I didn't prep you for this question, but what would you say are some of the misconceptions that real estate professionals in other markets around the country, or even the general public, might have about practicing your work in Manhattan?
I think this is a reasonable analysis for real estate as it is for many industries. You don't just wake up successful, right? Whether you're watching Selling Sunset or Million Dollar Listing, everybody wakes up and looks fabulous and has fabulous outfits and cars and shoes and bags and fabulous penthouses and homes on the beach. It takes a very long time to really hone your skills in this industry, as it is with most industries, to get to the top. And you don't just wake up. You just don't wake up like this. And it's really important that particularly people starting off in the industry understand the amount of time, the amount of endurance you really have to dedicate to the arts and the science of being a successful person in the real estate market.
That's interesting. Yeah. Study the arts and science of being a successful person in the real estate industry. I love how you stated that. I have I had a guest, and he's a friend here actually locally as well. Early on in this podcast, when I launched it, I leaned on some of my acquaintances and colleagues locally to help me get it going a couple years ago. And Mike Feely is a Christie's broker here locally, and he's been in the business for about 21 years now, I guess. At the time, it was 20 years. He mentioned how now he specializes mainly in luxury lakefront properties, uptown condos. And average transaction is a couple million, which is a large average here in the Charlotte market. And he said, honestly, it took me about 10 years before I was confident, until I had the confidence and the skills and the knowledge and experience necessary to work with clients who were considering 5, 8, $12 million transactions. And we talk about that all the time in this podcast, how important it is to, in the beginning, to understand it's a long game, without a doubt. And do you think let me rephrase that. I personally think that that's a big misconception about becoming a successful real estate agent, and probably why we see so many start and quit in a short amount of time is that it is such a long game.
It is. It's a long game, and it's like every industry. Nobody wakes up as a heart surgeon.
Right.
It takes 15 years before you perform your first heart surgery, and you are a heart surgeon for most of those 15 prior years. To get really good at any industry, it's simply experience, and there's no way to accumulate experience except experience.
That's a reel right there. I'm gonna cut that out, and that's gonna be one of my reels on social media. There's been a couple opportunities for reels, so this has been great so far. I really appreciate it, Lynne.
Absolutely.
The Hot 100 part, I love. Obviously, I'm gonna be sharing that with some of the folks that I work with as well. What would you say now that you're 10 years into your real estate career? How do you? I would imagine most of your business now are repeat clients, referrals from past clients as well. Are there other ways that new business find you?
Yeah, it's a lot of different channels, particularly we're here in a major city, right, with really aggressive brokers, competition. There's a lot that you're overcoming to get some type of market recognition, right? And it doesn't matter if it's your first day or you're 10 years in, you always need your next client. The reality is you always need a pipeline, and you have to be very thoughtful about generating a pipeline, and pipelines take time. So the way I approach it is like a funnel, and you want to ensure that you have all touch points in that funnel that consistently feed into one another. So it can be everything from social media channels to participating in podcasts, writing newsletters, sending postcards, knocking on doors. But I find the best and most effective way to do real estate is with, again, many industries. It's in real life. In real life, you have to meet real people to do real business. And that's the reality. It's breakfast, lunches, dinners, coffees, cocktails. Who do you meet at the gym? Who do you meet on the sidelines at soccer? It's really physically getting out there, meeting people, connecting with people in a way that's meaningful, in a way that I think is empathetic, so that you're really bonding and making real connections. It might not come to fruition in the first week, the first month, the first year, but as you work on generating your network and your visibility in the market over time, as you build meaningful relationships, I do think you're able to translate that into a profitable business.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, so many of us, and I operate a marketing agency specializing in serving real estate agents. And so obviously automation and passive type lead generation is a big part of what I do. But at the end of the day, there's also, I tell all my clients, you're still going to have to put time into this every month. And there's still no replacement for in-person interaction. And so, yeah, I get that. And that's where, I think in any industry where it's high ticket, high trust, building those relationships, like you might be able to get them into your world, your universe, through some automated marketing channel. But at some point, you're going to have to personally nurture these relationships.
Exactly. There's so many opportunities electronically, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, and there's obviously AI now, I think can make certain elements of that space a lot more seamless and efficient. Like I really can say legitimately, I love AI. I think the opportunities are endless to give us efficiencies and a framework to do what we do better. But in the end, it's a human business, and in order to make the meaningful connections and really convert those relationships, people have to know you and trust you.
I 100% agree too. I've integrated so much of AI tools into my own business as well. But again, I think and totally agree with the way you stated it, that it's amazing at helping you create a framework for efficiencies and scaling certain aspects of your business. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't replace you, right? The other thing too about AI is that, especially, I do a lot of work in SEO, Google search, and AI search now, of course, um, has just been exploding over the last 12 or 18 months. And one thing about AI is, though, is kind of like when it comes to AI search, it's still kind of in its infancy, and it still sort of believes anything you tell it. So that's it'll be interesting to see how that evolves, but it's having a huge impact on how people find um, service providers and real estate agents and that sort of thing. So I think that that's leaning into that now sooner rather than later is really important.
Absolutely. So I believe you want to really embrace every channel we have available to us. So absolutely, definitely out there exploring AI capabilities, SEO. There's a lot of mechanisms that I think really makes a hard job a little bit easier, and definitely why not participate in it? If there's a way to do what you do and make it easier on yourself every day, absolutely go for it.
What would you say? I think that what you shared earlier about it being a long game, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to um, build your real estate business in such a competitive market as New York City and in similar markets around the country. That would also be the case as well. And I think that even locally, even in smaller markets, still that principle applies. I think that that's great advice for those who are early in their real estate journey or those who are thinking about becoming licensees and starting a career in real estate. What would be another piece of advice maybe that you might have if looking back 10 years ago, if you knew then what you know now, what would you tell Lynn 10 years ago, specifically about competing in such a dynamic and intense market as New York City? What sort of advice would you have for Lynn or anyone else who has ambitions to practice in that market?
Absolutely. I think it's valuable to recognize you should not be the smartest person in the room. You want to find who you admire in the industry, who is presently doing today what you strive to do over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, and get near them in some capacity. So as I started to get a little bit of success under my belt and I started to feel a little bit more confident, I really looked at who did I really admire in the industry and how could I get closer to them, and any capacity that I could find to work with them, do a deal with them, do a showing with them, meet them for coffee, learn more about what they did, what were their effective strategies that hopefully I could translate and personalize to drive the growth of my own business. I was really open to those experiences. And in year one or year two, when you don't have as much confidence as, you know, everyone, like I said, everybody has a day one. Maybe I didn't have as much confidence in the first 2 years, but as I became a little bit more confident and I believed in myself that I could add value to somebody else's business, I really pushed myself into rooms, so to speak, where I thought I had an opportunity for growth. And I probably was the most inexperienced person in the room, but I was really hungry to learn. And I hope that resonated with the other people, that I was a sponge and I wanted to learn as much as I could. And I asked questions, even if there's no dumb question. And I realized there's no dumb question. I asked it anyway, and here I am.
I love that phrase. Don't be the smartest person in the room. I remember years ago someone mentioned, I think I read it somewhere. An author said that, I don't know who it was, and I'll never figure out who it was, but it's always stuck with me. When an author wrote, if I was the smartest person in the room, I knew I was in the wrong room. And to your point, I think, yeah, early in your career, don't be afraid to um, lean on those who have kind of achieved what you want to achieve, right? And I think that a lot of folks new in the industry would be surprised how open and willing successful realtors uh, can be to mentorship, to sharing knowledge, and helping to lift up those who are new in the industry and show a lot of promise, a lot of drive and determination and work ethic. And so I love that advice. I think that's super, super important. It also resonates with me because that was one of the inspirations why I launched this podcast 2 years ago, and why I've launched other podcasts in the past, is to bring people like you who are way more successful and smarter in the industry than I am on here, and so we can all kind of be a sponge and learn something. So, Lynne, I really, really appreciate it. What do you have planned for 2026? Anything new, or just steady as the business goes?
I recently launched a new team here at Compass. It's called Operate Global. And I used 2025 as a year for a foundation, built a really nice foundation. And 2026 is going to be growth. So I actually hired the first new person to the team yesterday. I'm excited about that. And I'm in the process of adding a few more people. And I think 2026 here in Manhattan will be a big year.
Congratulations. That's a big step. That's a big step in your business and your career. And I love that. That's going to make for a very exciting 2026 for sure. For listeners who want to learn more about you, Lynne, and your team, what's the best way for them to reach out and connect?
I'm easy to find. I'm Lynne Samone Mazin on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, email, cell, text, WhatsApp. I'm an agent, so you can always get me. Just
That's
reach
right.
out.
Yep. Absolutely. I'll have links, of course, in the description for this episode. We'll tag your Instagram account, Lynne, when I release it as well. I'll keep you posted on when that's coming. And this has been so great connecting. Really appreciate you joining the podcast. And thanks for so much for taking time to do it.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Great to be here.